Welcome to Friday Heavy, your guide to the world of aggressive and abrasive and loud and weird music.
Loud noises.
Brought to you by the folks behind TuneDig. So, I'm Cliff.
And I'm Kyle.
So, we got a new idea. Friday Heavy is a new idea that honestly was birthed out of two main things. First of all, our unique love for heavy music, because we just absolutely can't get away from it for whatever reason. And then noticing like the constant deluge of quality new releases in heavy music that are just impossible to keep up with. And we like to talk, me and Kyle, a lot about saying we're in a kind of golden age of music. And so that means a lot of digital crate digging and stuff that we used to do in record stores. It has never been more rewarding to do digitally because there's so much out there. So really quickly, what we hope to do with these bi-weekly discussions is invite new folks into the heavy fold that we're talking about. Like, we want you to get into what we're sharing and hopefully latch on to an idea or two you might not have considered before. Almost all of us who enjoy punk and metal and drone and doom and all that stuff started from a place where we thought that we wouldn't like heavy music, and then a thing clicked, right? Someone introduced us to the right thing and all of a sudden it turned things around.
For me, it was you. So let's pyramid scheme that on out.
Yeah, that's right. Pass the contagion, baby. I'm gonna get people sicker. So here's the new format. So each episode, here's the idea. We want to keep it really punchy and quick and to the point. So there's 3 elements to every episode. First, we're gonna hit one new release for that Friday and tell you why we think it'll be worth a spin. We'll be talking about it on the Friday that it comes out. So we won't have heard the whole album either necessarily. So we're bringing you in a little bit on why we think it's going to be worth a spin, and give you some kind of backup reasons for thinking about that artist or that album, or honestly, just kind of like why it might be tight to spin on a Friday. So we'll hit one new release. Second, we'll hit one playlist that we've curated for the week to explore like a heavy subgenre or an artist or a scene or an idea. And we've got a killer one today already. And then lastly, because we always want to point our energy about music and each other back towards helping and loving one another better, we'll also hit one organization who's doing a critical and culture impacting bit of work in their community so that you can really take all of this energy we have around heavy music and the community that's there and turn it into something actionable, because punk is way more than a genre.
It's a state of mind, baby. Yep. The other thing is we want to do it all in a fast-paced and digestible format, right? One, so that you can keep up with the tidal wave of new music that's coming out. And 2, we noticed that there aren't a lot of music podcasts that are short and punchy. And that was something that we aspired to do early on anyway. We wanted to be sort of like NPR's News Minute in the morning. Like, get in, get the headlines, get out, get on with your day and live your life. Because we would much rather you be listening to the heavy music very loud in your car than listening to us drone on and on for your whole commute. For longer conversations, though, check out the main TuneDig podcast, especially a handful of what's become sort of our heavy canon. Deep dive episode on the HM2 pedal. Thanks for that, Cliff. Converge's Axifal, and Sleep's Dope Smoker, our holy trinity forevermore. Amen. In fact, it was the response to those episodes that was a large part of the inspiration behind focusing more on heavy music, because we both love it, and we were pleasantly surprised by the volume and passion of the reaction that we got. So this mic is your mic, this stage is your stage. Let's get into it, Cliff. What release are we covering today?
This world is a stage. Stick around. Hell yeah. So we're legitimately stoked to have something that we're so stoked about to line up and be the first one that we can talk about. So this week we're talking about Vane FM's This World Is Going to Ruin You. This is their second full length. It's dropping today, and it's a really killer place to start when it comes to thinking about heavy music and why it's interesting, and where a lot of the energy is coming from, especially from like just honestly like folks younger than us in the scene.
Yep. It's weird to be the old people in the scene now, but I feel it in my knees. I felt it in my knees all Furnace Fest weekend long.
Oh yeah, I feel it in my lower back if I haven't gone to physical therapy recently. Yeah.
I'm never going to come out of pit retirement, he says before he jumps into the pit.
Man. So the band formerly known as Vane made their mark on me personally a few years ago with their release Error Zone. And it caught my attention because it's mostly full of like short, like violent tracks that smash together this like late 90s and early's, like metalcore doesn't really cover it, so we can just kind of say early 2000s hardcore sound maybe. And then it mashed together with what I could only describe as new metal, I felt.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The thing that I like about it is Vane and other Bane bands that are kind of doing the same thing realize that like you don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater with new metal. That's where groove lives. Take the best parts of Pantera that went into the best parts of Korn, that went into the best parts of Slipknot, and like the groove, you can make botch groovier was sort of, I think, the thesis. And I'm glad to see bands doing that sort of stuff and like rejecting genre labels, which was one of the worst parts of the alternative scene.
Yep. And I mean, a lot of these bands are just straight up mocking us basically because not only do they like new metal, they also like wrestling and Slipknot, non-ironically.
And like, we'll wear the basketball jerseys to prove it.
Yep. So like bands like Code Orange especially have kind of been smashing expectations about what you can do, right? So coming back to Vane FM, the singles that are out right now, I think give us a good idea of like why this album in particular is going to be kind of wild. Because there's a few singles out and it really gives us like a spectrum of genres that they've contained even within this singular release. So first, The Killing Womb is one of the singles they've released, and it's the kind of modern hardcore that we would come to expect. And this is going to be a Will Putney produced record, and so it sounds pretty much like you expect it to.
Yeah, Killer Low End is one of the immediate things that you notice, which I think is the sort of new metal legacy influence, but the bass tone that Will Putney gets is out of sight. Like I think he's sort of peerless in that regard.
These other two, Fear and Nonfiction, which starts to introduce melody in some really interesting ways, and even has a guest spot from Thursday's Jeff Rickley, which the whole song kind of takes me by surprise. But then you integrate this third single, Wavery, and you've kind of got a totally different vibe going on in a single that's on the same track or on the same record. This release is probably going to be a heck of a ride from start to finish.
And Wavery was really cool because the first, minute and a half of it are basically Deftones' RX Queen, which is like, how cool to introduce that to a whole new generation of people now that record's almost a quarter century old. And then it goes into like a huge sort of doom thing. So they're unafraid to mash up genres and in ways that would have felt inappropriate. And like, I almost feel old even just pointing that out because that doesn't really matter. But I just want to like go on record as saying that I appreciate that it's not trying to be one thing for one thing's sake. Like they're really trying to be fearless, and it's obvious that they are consciously trying to mash up moments that maybe wouldn't go together or other bands wouldn't be able to pull off.
Yep. One of the times where it sounds really stupid on paper and it's just somehow really working
Absolutely.
out. Yep. Good artist and a good producer can do that from time to time.
Yep.
So if this excites you and you're kind of into this, a couple of quick notes. First of all, we're always going to encourage you to go through a band's back catalog. It's not super long with Vane FM or Vane, but a couple of quick notes. You can go to their 2017 EP split with a band called Gift from God, who's also really awesome. I think I've only been able to find it on Bandcamp, but it's a pretty cool place to go back further before they got a little braver with the melody and all that stuff. And so it's got your real abrasion if you want it. And then we've mentioned Code Orange as well.
Or Code Orange Kids. Everybody making and growing out of names in this scene.
Yep. Yeah, we're going to try this name until, we're big enough to have lawyers now. We're going to need to
We're
shut
just
that.
Bow Wow now.
Yep. So, but Code Orange will give you an idea of this arc as like a genre. If you start with 2014's I Am King and just kind of work your way up through that chronologically, you'll start to see some pretty interesting stuff. Check out This World is Going to Ruin You, out today via Closed Casket Activities. We're always going to mention this to you every week, but go listen to the music however you want, because if you want to give a band money, there are a lot better ways to give your bands money than trying to stream it enough to send them a buck. Okay,
that money just goes to Joe Rogan and Taylor Swift anyway.
It does at this point, and it doesn't seem like they want to change anything about that. So if you want to send a band money, go to their shows, buy tickets, whether you can go or not. Go to their store, and buy merch from them. Or, this is a wild idea, just send them money. Just send them money. Just literally ask them how to send them money and send them money. So that's a great way to support bands. Hell yeah. So let's talk about our awesome playlist that we get to talk about this week. You want to take it, Kyle?
So we mentioned Will Putney. You know, I think one of the things that's really exciting to us as of the kind of immediate previous generation of heavy music lovers is we loved the bands that sort of emerged as, I don't want to call them the cool bands, but like the different bands, the other bands. They weren't bands that sounded like other bands. They sounded like themselves, and that was the whole point, right? Your Converges, your Botches, your Coalesces, for me, your Every Time I Dies, the ones that emerged as just trying to be their singular one of oneselves. A lot of those bands were anchored by Converge and by God City and by Kurt Ballou as a sonic anchor. And I think we have a lot of that again in Will Putney as sort of a spiritual descendant, also from the Northeast. So this playlist I've demoed tape labeled Putney Zone. We put together a playlist of some of the stuff that he's produced. And the things you want to listen to here are the huge tone that he achieves basically with everything that he engineers, and the clarity that he gets in separation of instruments. It's not just one big mid-tone wall of sound. So there are three sorts of categories in this. It's 19 tracks. It's about an hour. The first thing is just that of this generation of cool, othered heavy music, he's putting out most of the heaviest shit right now, period. Right? So there's all sorts of death metal and deathcore and whatever, but the stuff that doesn't sound quite like anything else and is extremely heavy, your Knocked Loose, your Vane FM, your Stray from the Path, your Greyhaven, pretty much everything that's rad right now other than Turnstile and Code Orange and like Jesus Piece. So you have a handful of those tracks there. We started with a track from Error Zone very much on purpose because that was a record that blew us away. And we saw Vane, the first time that we ever saw Vane live was with Turnstile and ETID a couple of years ago. And it was a holy shit moment for us, which are harder to come by now that we've seen thousands of shows. Sort of similar with Knocked Loose too, where the first time we experienced it live, we were just like, oh, this is a moment. We're witnessing a moment right now. So Will is very much at the forefront of this vanguard of a moment. Also, Will has kind of a thing for career-defining efforts from scene vets. So he's produced the last two Every Time I Die records, easily their best, certainly their best sounding. We put a cut from Radical that features Josh Scogin from Norma Jean, The Chariot, and The 68. An Unearthed track we saw Unearthed at Furnace Fest. This is probably their coolest sounding record, Extinctions. An Acacia Strain song, who I'll admit was a band I didn't like early on. And I think everything they're doing right now is super rad. And I think Putney has had a hand in that. And then Body Count, our man Ice-T, a record called, is it called Bloodlust? Is that the name of the record? Yeah. It's got a song called No Lives Matter. It's got a song with Dave Mustaine. It's got a song with Randy Blythe from Lamb of God. So like the coolest Body Count shit ever, period. We got a couple of tracks from Will's own bands, Fit for an Autopsy and End, which I would say Cliff End is probably like in your overall top 10 right now. Yeah, certainly.
Yeah, these days for sure.
Also a very rad live band, super heavy. And then there are a couple of stretch moments in there right around the middle. My Ticket Home and a song called Ayahuasca. So some of the early stuff he did before he really started like finding his thing. Zeal and Ardor, who I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole, but Zeal and Ardor is a really, really cool like blues metal project with some racial exploration. And then Night Verses, which has Eric Improda on the drums, and he's now in The Fever. And it's sort of like an instrumental jammer in the middle because it can't be all down tune riffs bludgeoning your face the whole time. So there's a little bit of breadth in there, but it's about an hour's worth of music for you to just kind of shock and awe at Putney and the heavy music that he's putting out all out of one studio in New York.
You know, we talked about finding moments to hook people into heavy music in new ways. This is not the way I listen to music, but I know a lot of people love a good, like, heavy, aggressive track for being active or working out or whatever. This is probably a good one for that. Those little stretch moments can come in when you probably need to take a little break before your next round anyway. But this is, I mean, if you're a person who loves a good, heavy rhythm this might be a good place for you to figure out what catches your brain while you're doing some physical stuff. Because, like, this stuff is really physical.
If you're trying to hit a new PR with lifting, or you're biking in an area with a lot of hills, this is a good playlist for digging deep and getting to that place. It'll pull it out of you. It's very animalistic.
Yeah. Don't send us your CrossFit stories, though. Thanks very much.
We will block you. We love you, and we are proud of your fitness journey and your self-care, but we will block you.
We will recommend you see a physical therapist immediately, and then we will block you. But we love that you're keeping up with your body. That's great, bro, sis, and whoever else. So awesome. For real, that playlist fucking rules already. So let's hit this last bit, this thing we want to talk about, where each week we give you something to think about, an organization doing something real that you can be involved in. And in an attempt to not over editorialize too much, we always want to give you a little bit of context for why we picked a particular organization. Right now, in reality, things are super terrible in general, which is probably an intro for any section on any podcast.
That's why we love and need heavy music.
That's right. So, but one thing we want to focus on is there's a lot of noise going on in public school systems. And Kyle is a new parent. I am child-free. We're both really happy in that. And we both care, though, about public school systems and the quality of the education that people get, because that really, really matters. And right now, there's a lot of noise going on around public school from people who really like to hear themselves say the word liberty really loud on Facebook. And what's happening, thanks to especially astroturfing organizations and all that, is quite literally spreadsheets are being passed around to go get books out of libraries because they threaten the sensibilities of certain people. And that's in a situation where you already usually have a lot of say in what goes into books in your school library. Like, it's a panic over not a lot of stuff. But the downstream effect of all of this bullshit and empty politicking is literally a dumber body of knowledge for kids and for other people who are using that library to learn stuff. Like, we ought not be taking knowledge away from people. We ought to be teaching people how to use it and how to understand it when they get it. Because the fact that you read a thing doesn't mean you believe it. And I'm not sure when we got really confused by that.
We're trying to. So, if you're listening to this podcast, we're trying to tap into your punk rock guilt a little. Like, there should not be this level of censorship anywhere in society. So, for the fuck you, I won't do what you tell me crowd, this is somebody trying to tell you.
Yep. So, on top of paying attention to that, what we want to do is give a little context for what we're focusing on with an organization this week, because there are other sets of people in our society who have access to knowledge that's limited by other people who have really shitty intentions. And that other set of people are incarcerated individuals, okay? So we just want to highlight really quickly Books to Prisoners. It's a Seattle-based nonprofit organization, and their mission is to foster a love of reading while behind bars and encourage a pursuit of knowledge and self-empowerment and break the cycle of recidivism. And they were founded in the early 70s. They're sponsored by Left Bank Books, and it's one of the largest and oldest prison book projects in the country. It's really awesome, okay? And hopefully you can see how these ideas tie together. People deserve access to knowledge and information. It doesn't mean that you become the thing that you read. You don't have to be afraid of knowledge, okay? Go ask Wong in Doctor Strange. He says no knowledge is forbidden, only certain practices. So maybe take a note from him. I don't know. So learn more about Books to Prisoners at bookstoprisoners.net and consider making a monetary donation. And because that's always the best way to support an effective organization is just to give them money. But there's also a way to donate your actual books if you want. So be respectful and check out their rules and all that stuff before sending them anything, and just figure out how to get involved and help them. Because ultimately, again, we feel access to information and culture and new perspectives is really critical, and it's a part of your right as a conscious human being, even as a child.
Tao of Punk #1, all knowledge should be open and free.
That's right. So fuck censorship. Go give some money to Books to Prisoners. So that's awesome. So Thanks for joining us this week. Kyle, anything before we go?
No, thanks for tuning in. I'm excited about this. I hope y'all are excited about it, and looking forward to keeping this train going. So we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Hell yeah. This has been Friday Heavy. We'll see you soon.
Cheers.
Go to toondig.com or follow us on Instagram and Twitter for links to the new release, the playlist, and the organization that we talked about today.